Hi, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to week two. We've had a really busy and productive first week, and I'm uh, really happy and encouraged by the responses and the energy that's coming from all of the sections, right? So there's so much really good stuff going on, and I just want to acknowledge your hard work and dedication at this point. Let's just keep that up and keep building on it. Um, so I want to give a little preview of where we've been and where we're going. So thus far, we have talked about close reading and interpretation, right? We've picked out data and details from a couple different poems in a way to try to figure out what that message of that poem was. I've started looking at the reflections that came out of that, the B7 reflections, and so far they're really strong, right? The strongest ones in particular form a message and then use specific details from the text to support that message and to kind of give reasoning and rationale for how those lines, those words, led them to believe that the message was actually there. So that's what we're looking for overall. Now, sometimes you'll run into what we call complication, and that's okay. But sometimes on this, something comes up that doesn't quite fit your interpretation, or there's a piece of evidence or a line in the text that doesn't quite fit what you're trying to say. That doesn't mean that your interpretation needs to be thrown away. It just means that you want to address that complication and kind of smooth out those wrinkles. Sometimes you can argue that that complication isn't as it appears, that in fact we might be able to think about something a little bit in a little bit of a different way. And so that's your power as the writer and the reader, is to bring that to the surface and tell us what it means and use your words to show us that. So it can be kind of a game and like a puzzle. It's kind of fun. Okay. So what's kind of next? Week two basically starts with D8. I know some people have gotten that far, but some people have not. So that's fine. Uh, Basically, we're looking now how we can add interpretive lenses to our close reading process, right? How two things can appear very differently depending on the perspective that we use to view those things, those poems or those short stories, or hell, even the world around us, right? And so I've done a couple things here and kind of there's a flip grid. What does feminism mean to you? Just explain what initial impressions were. Then we talk more specifically about the feminist lens, and there are a lot of important details within this feminist lens. There's a little PowerPoint that delivers some good information, and then there's some very useful questions here that will help you in your quest to start to utilize and deploy this feminist lens. So these are really important questions, so keep track of those somewhere. And as you start reading with that feminist eye, I want you to ask yourself a couple of these questions. And then I've provided this article down here. This is optional, but you might find it really interesting. It helps kind of contextualize the whole history of feminism in a few short pages, right? And so you can really get a sense of what the different waves of feminism we're interested in. We're going to look at the first wave and the second wave in this class, right? And I'm going to leave it up to you to look at the third wave on your own, should you be interested. I've also included some class discussions here, in which I have embedded a live Google Doc. I can see some people have already gotten into this document, and a Cinderella clip, right? And so I've given you some questions here to think about. They're related to the questions from the previous page. And as you watch it, I just want you to make notice of things that you see here. All right, add your voice to the discussion. Doesn't matter if it seems like it's been repeated. This is basically like we might put ideas on a blackboard in a face-to-face class, right? So we're able to get everybody's just random thoughts on the board, and then we can sift through those. All ideas are good ideas because they give us things to think about. Right? And I've done the same thing on the next page for a Jack and the Beanstalk, kind of a little short. And again, we're looking to see, in terms of gendered roles, what kind of message this sends to us, right? What kind of message is sent about gender, authority, expectations, acceptable behaviors, that type of stuff. Okay? Then after we've kind of gone through that, then I have an interesting assignment here, and I want to talk about this one just a little bit more in depth. This is kind of reading your world through a feminist lens, right? So here I'm asking you to kind of take a scavenger hunt, go out into the world, and when you see something to remind you of the concept explained in the feminism lens lesson, I want you to kind of explore that and really reason through that in in an interesting fashion, right? And so I'll give you an example of something that I would write. Uh, in a couple minutes after I post this video, I have to go to Target and do my weekly shopping, right? And one of the things that I find most interesting when you walk into a Target, especially I go to the one in Pinole on Fitzgerald, is as soon as you walk in, right in front of you, displayed is the women's clothing section. Right? And so if you look at that through a feminist lens, what you see is the company understands that women are more likely to purchase clothing at Target than men, right? They realize that they're aiming the experience of Target and the experience of shopping at Target to women, right? It's on the right-hand side. Most people tend to go to the direction of the hand that they use when they first walk into a store. I'm a lefty, so I always take a left-hand turn, but most people tend to go in that same direction, right? And so we have on the right-hand side a department set up for women, right? And so you start reading that through a feminist lens, and you start to realize that the store here has created or utilized their knowledge of women and tendencies, or which what they thought were the tendencies of women, to create and design their store. Okay, so that's one of the things that I'm talking about. Now you can look at a number of different things, right? Whether it's social media posts, or whether it's you're walking by and you're seeing certain gender roles and expectations in your daily world. It doesn't really matter to me, right? But I really want you to look at kind of the mundane, normal, quote unquote, normal life around you, and start to apply some of the questions from the typical feminist questions, right? The typical feminist concerns and questions, and see what we can uncover, right? It gets to be really, really interesting. Toy department aisles, okay? These things are all really, really interesting when we start to really break them down. Cuts of clothes and styles of clothes, right? There's so much stuff you can deal with here, okay? And so these are the things I really want you to think about. I've got you set up as a group discussion. This time it's going to work. I went back and made sure that everything was set up so that we were all in these groups. And, you know, put your initial post up by tomorrow, Tuesday, at midnight, and then really look into what other people are exploring and kind of continue that conversation. Go back to the forum, see what people have to say, and just build on the observations of your classmates. Okay? It's about where, and then I'll have you do a reflection kind of afterwards about what you've learned about close reading, about feminism, really anything up until this point. And then we're going to get into our first essay assignment. We're going to break down a poem that I find extraordinarily interesting, and we'll get started on that probably right around Wednesday. I'll open up that unit on Wednesday, and I will send you another video announcement in which we break it down. Okay? So have fun out there. Remember, I have office hours if you need to talk to me, and we will get this underway. Have a good week, and I look forward to seeing you online. Bye.